Tennis, a sport of grace, precision and power. But where did it all begin? Today we're exploring the history of tennis from its medieval origins to its rise as a global phenomenon, and ultimately diving into the history of the US Open, one of the sport's greatest stages. Tennis traces its roots back to 12th century France, where a game called Jeu de Paume, or Game of the Palm, was played with the hand instead of a racket. By the 16th century, rackets were introduced and a more familiar version of tennis was born. Known as real tennis, this game gained popularity among royals, including England's Henry VIII. The modern version of tennis emerged in the 19th century with lawn tennis. In 1874, Major Walter Clopton Wingfield patented the first rules for the game, which quickly gained popularity across Europe and the United States. With the establishment of Wimbledon in 1877, the stage was set for global tournaments. In the United States, the first U.S. national championships were held in 1881 at Newport Casino in Rhode Island, restricted to men's players. 6 years later, in 1887, the U.S. Women's National Singles Championship was introduced, setting the stage for what would become the U.S. Open. 1968 marked the beginning of the Open era. For the first time, both amateur and professional players could compete in the newly named U.S. Open. Tennis was no longer a sport solely for the elite, but a truly global competition. That year, Arthur Ashe made history as the first black man to win a Grand Slam title, a victory that transcended sports and symbolized the breaking down of racial barriers in tennis. What followed is considered by many to be the golden era of US Open tennis. From the late 1970s through the early 2000s, the tournament became synonymous with fierce rivalries, thrilling five-set matches and tennis icons. Jimmy Connors, with his electrifying play, captured 5 US Open titles, while Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova defined women's tennis with their intense rivalry. This was the era of legends. In the 90s, Pete Sampras dominated the men's game with 5 US Open titles to his name, while Andre Agassi's charisma and all-court game made him a fan favorite. On the women's side, Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, and later, the Williams sisters were rewriting history with their dominance, strength, and sheer will to win. As the golden era transitioned into the 2000s, new stars emerged. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic took the sport to new heights. Federer won 5 consecutive US Open titles between 2004 and 2008, making him one of the most successful players in the tournament's history. But it was Djokovic who would emerge as one of the fiercest competitors on these courts, with his blend of athleticism and mental toughness, earning multiple titles and captivating the world. The last 2 decades have brought both familiar faces and fresh talent to the US Open. While veterans like Djokovic and Nadal continued to dominate, the tournament also welcomed new champions. In 2009, Juan Martín del Potro upset Federer in a thrilling 5-set final, one of the most unforgettable upsets in US Open history. On the women's side, Serena Williams cemented her legacy with 6 titles, but new stars also rose. Naomi Osaka's 2018 triumph against Serena was a landmark moment, ushering in a new generation of young, powerful women's players. And who could forget Emma Raducanu's fairy tale run in 2021, becoming the first qualifier in history to win the US Open without dropping a single set. As we arrive at the 2024 US Open, the competition remains fiercer than ever. Young stars like Carlos Alcaraz and Coco Gauff are redefining what it means to compete at the highest level. Alcaraz, after his electrifying victory in 2022, has quickly become one of the most exciting players on the tour, while Gauff's power and determination have made her a force in women's tennis. The 2024 US Open is a testament to how tennis continues to evolve, with each generation building on the legacy of the past. From the golden era to the next gen, the US Open remains the final battleground where champions are crowned and history is written. Every September, the world's best players converge in New York to show us what it takes to be a legend. The US Open has stood the test of time, constantly evolving yet remaining true to its core. A tournament that celebrates talent, hard work, and the human spirit. As we look back on its history, one thing is certain: the future of tennis looks brighter than ever. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the history of tennis and the US Open. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more exciting sports content.